Respected elder brothers and sisters and rest of brothers and sisters, I really believe 7 billion human beings on this planet are actually part of human community. Same way we born, same way we die. While we alive, most precious thing is warm-heartedness. That brings inner strength, inner peace, and also create peaceful community. So I actually try to educate people or share with people as much as possible to know the ultimate source of happiness is within ourselves, not on money or fame. So therefore, here I always also believe and also share with other people, we need a sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. Different faith, different nationality, different color, and rich and poor. It's secondary. Basically, we are same human being. Now, these days, I have sort of 4 commitments. Number 1 commitment as a human being, promote basic human value on the basis of scientific finding. Now, number of scientists, they found constant anger, hatred, actually eating our immune system. And basic human nature, since we are a social animal, so basic nature is more compassionate. So that's the basis of our hope. Now what is we are lacking is existing education system. I usually call modern education is introduced from West. So the Western people, Judeo-Christian countries, they are, as far as spiritual field is concerned, pray to God. Now, that's inadequate. Now, warm-heartedness, in order to keep warm-heartedness and in order to increase warm-heartedness, we must utilize human brain, not just faith. As I mentioned earlier, now scientists, number of scientists, you see, mentioned that. So we are not talking about next life or heaven or what's the kasa karma, tarva.
Salvation.
Oh, like that, nirvana. Simply, day-to-day life, everybody want happy life. So ultimate source of happiness is within ourselves. More compassionate mind, then that person automatically, you see, reduce anger, suspicion, frustration, these things automatically reduce. So therefore, now in education, we should include education about our mind. Now this country, not new, over 3,000 years, concept of ahimsa, concept of karuna already developed. Now I think this country, during British rule, they also introduced the modern education. Wonderful. However, they do not know. Only prayer, otherwise you see training of mind, they do not know. So now India's existing education should combine with 1,000-year-old India's education, how to tackle our emotion. So India is the only nation who can combine education about materialistic oriented education, and including science, technology, very important, very good. At the same time, ancient India's education about ahimsa, karuna, through training of mind and full knowledge tackle our destructive emotion. That's India's tradition. Now that must combine with modern education and these ancient sort of Indian knowledge. So now my third or second responsibility is the promotion of religious harmony, and third regarding Tibet, and fourth now I'm trying to revival of these ancient Indian knowledge in modern India, combine modern education, which oriented materialistic sort of thing, and then ancient Indian knowledge about mind. These should combine. And India, 1,000 years, you have the tradition of secular. Wonderful. Whether you say believer or non-believer, I believe in this religion, that religion, that's personal matter. As a human being, we need education, knowledge about our mind. Then this country, these things are not something like bring something new. No. India's own tradition. Only question is revival. So that's my sort of fourth commitment. Now here, real change in the world will only come from a change of heart. So now here, according materialistic sort of education, knowledge, when we mentioned mind or chit, only sensorial level, not chit or mental level. So materialistic life, materialistic culture, through materialistic education, whole sort of people who come through that kind of education, is they are sort of the concept of happiness, joyfulness, only related with five senses of organs. Seeing something nice, hearing some beautiful music, and taste, and smell, and touch, including sex. These are sensorial level, not mental, sixth mind, mental level. So anger, compassion, these are on the level of sixth mind. So we need special training, special training about mental level, how to keep peace of mind. Pray or recite something not sufficient. We must utilize human brain, and through human intelligence, through that way, we have fuller knowledge. Such emotion are very destructive. It is antidote within our own mind. So realize that and pay more attention to strengthening these positive emotion, then automatically destructive emotion reduce. So only question of healthy mind, and through that way, healthy body. So now in that respect, in India, over 1,000 years, you see, really paying more attention about mind. So practice of shamatha, single-pointed mind, and also the analytical meditation Vipassana over 3,000 years in this country. So, single-pointed mind sort of bring our mental energy more generalized. And the main mind increase the ability to focus one, then your main mind focusing that more seriously, then senses of organs become more neutralized. And then the very purpose of shine or shamatha is sharpening our ability, our mind, wherever you want to concentrate. You see, the meditation is very helpful to Kasoda. Anyway, to stability. Then analytical meditation, analyze. Vipassana. Vipassana really, you see, change our sort of our mind, our belief, our attitude. So, in Buddha Dharma, of course, you see, the Sangha philosophy also is tremendously sort of practice these things. And the Jains also, you see, very much sort of you practice these things. So Jainism, ahimsa, wonderful. Then after that, Buddha come. And also, you see, actually all major orders tradition carry the same message of love, message of tolerance, message of self-discipline. The differences, now theistic religion believe God, creator. Non-theistic religion, like Sangha, one part of Sangha philosophy, no creator. Jainism, no creator. Buddhism, no creator, but rather self-creation. So the emphasis, how to train our mind, how to tackle our destructive emotion. So in Buddhism, after Buddha, there are many scholars, eventually some different traditions, school of thought. And then gradually Nalanda institution developed. So I usually do not use the word Mahayana and Hinayana. It creates something wrong impression. The Theravada is the foundation of Buddha Dharma. Usually we call Hinayana. Then Sanskrit tradition, Mahayana. No, the Sanskrit tradition is entirely based on Pali tradition. Without a Pali tradition, you see, we can't carry Sanskrit tradition as a Buddhist sort of practice. So, Pali tradition, very important. But Pali tradition mainly, you see, based on Buddha's quotation. And then Nalanda tradition, you see, use analytical meditation, analyze. Buddha himself, you see, told us, "O my follower, monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment." So Nalanda tradition exactly follow that advice. So many Nalanda masters analyze some Buddha's own teaching. After they analyze through reasoning, they found some contradiction. So they reject even Buddha's own word. That's Nalanda tradition, like Nagarjuna and Aryadeva, Buddhapalita. These people make distinction. This Buddha's teaching, we can accept literally. This Buddhist teaching we cannot accept because so investigate through reason, we find contradiction. So Buddha taught that particular audience, according to their mental disposition, Buddha taught that we cannot accept that. So that's quite unique, the Nalanda master. So I usually say Pali tradition and the Sanskrit tradition, not use Hinayana, Mahayana, and also I think a Nalanda tradition, meaning Sanskrit tradition, but sometimes I feel not necessary. They use the Nalanda word. Nalanda, then people get the impression, some connection with Buddhism. So simply, Sanskrit tradition. Many ancient non-Buddhist scholars, they also wrote in Sanskrit language. So at that time, Sanskrit language considered more educated people, sort of scholarly language. So like Nagarjuna and these Nalanda master, they use Sanskrit text, Sanskrit word. So it is quite clear. Pali tradition, Sanskrit tradition, not necessarily just Buddhism, but all ancient Indian sort of scholars use Nalanda, the Sanskrit language. So now, as I mentioned earlier, the difference is Pali mainly quotation, based on quotation. Sanskrit tradition, analyze. So now today, when we discuss with scientists, according Sanskrit tradition, then very easy to learn each other. And the number of scientists really sort of they find useful about this knowledge in Sanskrit tradition. I think mainly psychology, about mind. Sometimes I sort of use, express this way, the modern psychology, compare ancient Indian psychology. Modern psychology looks like kindergarten level. The ancient Indian sort of psychology, highly developed. So now, in order to develop peaceful mind, this knowledge which exists in Sanskrit tradition, very, very useful. Then the logical approach. As a sort of student of Sanskrit tradition, in our mind, whenever we come across something, we never say, yes, yes. We always, why? That's very important. So they raise, why? Then investigate, reason. Yes, sir. Then, you see, our intelligence no longer sort of room. Why? Then plenty of room. Investigate. So therefore, according to my own sort of little experience, meeting with modern scientists, mainly in psychology and physics, and particularly quantum physics, we are very similar. Once the late Raja Ramana, as he told me, quantum physics in West, something new. In this country, 2,500 years ago, already developed quantum physics. It is very true. So, it is quite useful in order to tackle emotion. Our emotion, destructive emotion, very much based on appearances and some kind of grasping oh, there's something absolute true. Then attachment and anger, this come. So once we realize, oh, there is differences, appearance and reality, and that strong grasping, that automatically become weak. Now some quantum physics student, already you see getting that kind of experience. That's exactly Nagarjuna mentioned. And many Buddha's quotation mentioned Tsumi Yigitwana Yungor Sati.
Yes. So grasping at things as if they have some absolute existence it happens because of our what is known as called inappropriate mentation.
So here I want to share with you one of my secret. That is when I met scientists and when they explain about quantum physics, then I really sort of listen humbly. But in my mind, I feel I know better. Actually, you see, we, in Tibetan tradition, according the instruction of Shanta Rakshita from Nalanda, we extensively, you see, study this sort of knowledge. So the Vibhashik, not much talk. And Sotantik, also not much, but little. Then Chittamantra and Madhyamika extensively, you see, explain about differences, appearance, and reality. So we study several years and also meditate. Therefore, actually we know better like that. So therefore, these is a concept very useful. Then, psychology and quantum physics. Then, kasa.
Neurobiology.
Or neurobiology, and particularly in tantric sort of study, explanation about our inner energy, how to control these things. So we have sort of plenty of sort of material to discuss with the modern scientists, and they also appreciate to learn from Buddhist psychology or these Buddhist philosophy, these things. So we both, our principle is why. So investigate. Therefore, now some Chinese scholars, they found Tibetan Buddhism is true Nalanda tradition, and that tradition is a very scientific religion. Some Chinese scholar, they express that. So it is true. So the Sanskrit tradition, I think really is immense help to bring ability about our mind to investigate. So therefore, now these are Indian tradition. So modern India, now I notice is more and more people really showing interest about ancient Indian knowledge. So now this university also now really have some program and have close contact with some Tibetan scholar. So, and many other places in the Chandigarh University, I met, I saw talk, and then different places, more and more Indian, now really showing interest about ancient Indian knowledge. So this is not something like bring from outside. No, India's own tradition. So only question is revival and combine modern education and ancient Indian knowledge, like that. So then, when we talk about ancient Indian knowledge, I often, you see, sort of teasing my Indian friend, this physical, not Indian, Tibetan, but my mind more Indian than those modern educated Indian. They do not know these things. So this is nothing special for me. But thousands, you see, mainly a monk. Nowadays, nuns also become now coming, more and more scholars, and also because of bhikshuni. So, in any way, in the Karnataka state, I think at least over 1,000 monk students who really study these things, at least in order to become a scholar, at least 20 years study. And in the past, in Tibet, 20, 30 years study. The root text learned by heart. Myself also, about I think 6, 7 years old, I already start memorize these root text. Then explanation, each word, according commentary, mainly Indian master. And then, of course, later Tibetan masters. I think over 10,000 volumes wrote by Tibetan master. And then we extensively use debate, logical approach. It's very, very useful, sharpening our mind, and quite sort of, because the person who study logic, then their mind always something, because of the sharp, very useful.